Walking Your Why? The Whistleblower. At the age of 24, Sergeant Joseph Darby was a U.S. Army reservist called up during the early days of Iraq War. He was posted to the now infamous Abu Ghraib prison, where unbeknownst to the rest of the world, US soldiers were subjecting detainees to physical and sexual abuse. Within the prison walls, this behavior had come to seem normal. And as one soldier after another began to participate in these abuses, Darby looked the other way. Even when his fellow guards gave him a CD that included some of the abuse photos on it, he initially played along. It was amusing at first, he told an interviewer, but the more he witnessed, the more he realized that the abuse violated everything I personally believed in and all that I had been taught about the rules of war. After a few days of stressful deliberation, he handed over the CD to a superior officer, an action that ultimately led to the prosecution of many of the soldiers in the photos. Conformity and loyalty are key concepts in military culture. And under stressful conditions, members of tightly knit military units can fall prey to dangerous groupthink, exhibiting violent and dehumanizing behavior that in other contexts they would condemn as wrong. The atrocities committed at Abu Ghraib are a textbook example of the powerful phenomenon of group coercion. Resisting the pull of group behavior takes a great deal of strength, and Darby was able to make the dramatic switch by acting from a place of truth within himself. By staying aligned with his values, he was able not only to break free from the group's behavior, but also to muster the courage to make the abuse public. Even though he was so afraid he would be found out as the whistleblower that at one point he slept with a gun under his pillow. Though its results were shattering, Darby's choice was actually quite simple. He had a powerful personal sense of acceptable behavior, so the decision to become an informant was ultimately straightforward. When you connect with your real self and what you believe to be important, the gulf between how you feel and how you behave closes up. You begin to live your life without as many regrets and without as much second guessing. Most of us will never find ourselves in circumstances as dire as Sergeant Darby's. But we all face many other choices, whether to sell, credit default swaps for a living, where to settle down, how to educate our kids. Even the trivial choices, cook dinner or order pizza, walk or drive, add up. As Aristotle told his Greek friends long before they joined the European Union, you are what you habitually do. This is why having a clear understanding of your own values is critical to finding change and fulfillment. It's not just that values are nice things to have, rather, research shows that values actually help us access greater levels of willpower and grit and safeguard us from negative social contagion. They also protect us against subconscious stereotypes and beliefs that limit us without our even knowing they are there, and yet can have a real negative impact on our ability to face challenges. Say you are a female first year college student dreaming of becoming a doctor, but you have grown up in a culture that constantly tells you girls are bad at science. Then you have a setback, such a bad grade on your first test in freshman biology. You may be more likely to drop the class and give up your dreams, unless, that is, you are clear about what matters to you. One important study found that just identifying their personal values helped protect a group of minority students from absorbing the dangerous cultural message that they couldn't perform as well academically as their more privileged peers. In the study, African American and Latino middle schoolers were asked to complete a 10-minute exercise in which they wrote down what mattered most to them. Their answers included everything from dancing to family to politics, and the effect of this simple exercise was astonishing. After focusing on their connections to the world and people outside themselves, the students were able to improve their GPAs enough to close the achievement gap between them and their white classmates. In many cases, the effect lasted into high school, and all because these kids took a few minutes to think about their core values. A similar scenario played out for a group of female college students enrolled in an introductory physics course, a classic setting in which doubts about gender and scientific ability can flourish. The students who were randomly assigned to do a value affirmation exercise performed better on their physics exams and in the course overall than those who hadn't done the exercise. I'll read it again. The students who were randomly assigned to do a values affirmation exercise performed better on their physics exams and in the course overall than those who hadn't done the exercise. By thinking about what was important to them, they unleashed their true potential, regardless of cultural skepticism about their abilities. We are on this planet for only a limited time, and it makes sense to try to use the time wisely in a way that will add up to something personally meaningful. And study after study shows that having a strong sense of what matters to lead greater happiness as well as a better health, a stronger marriage, and greater academic and professional success, the subjects of one such study who affirmed just one core value responded better to warnings about potential health problems and more strongly voiced their intention to address them going forward and were more accepting of others' cultural worldviews. When we make choices based on what we know to be true for ourselves, rather than being led by others telling us what is right or wrong, important or cool, we have the power to face almost any circumstances in a constructive way. Rather than being caught up in pretending or social comparison, we can stride forward with confidence. Walking your values. Of course, determining what you truly care about is only half the process of walking your why. Once you have identified your values, you then have to take them out for a spin. This requires a certain amount of courage, but you can't aim to be fearless. Instead, you should aim to walk directly into your fears with your values as your guide toward what matters to you. Courage is not absence of fear, courage is fear walking. When Irina Sendler was a 7-year-old living in Poland, her father, a doctor, told her, if you see someone drowning, you must jump in to save them. When the Nazis invaded her town during World War II, this value of helping that she held so dearly led her to shelter and feed her Jewish neighbor. As the war progressed, Sendler moved on to creating with her like-minded friends thousands of false papers to aid Jewish families in escaping from the notorious Warsaw Ghetto. From there, disguised as a social worker checking for typus, she started smuggling children out of the ghetto herself. It was terrifying, but she never wavered, not even when the Gestapo arrested her and sentenced her to death. She later described a sense of relief at the news. At last, she would be free from the fear that had come with the brave path she had chosen. Then a guard helped her escape and go into hiding. Yet, instead of protecting herself for the remainder of the war, Sendler remained true to her values and continued at enormous risk to work to save Jewish children, at least 2,500 in all. She stayed the course when it would have been far easier and safer to duck and run. But Sandler knew that without action, a value is just an aspiration rather than the way we really are. Whether your values based actions are a matter of life and death, as Sandler's were, or of the blessedly mundane, should I go to sleep on time or indulge in another hour of Netflix variety, you will eventually arrive at what I call a choice point, a metamorphical fork in the road where you are presented with just that, a choice. But unlike many choices, black shoes or brown, latte or cappuccino, each choice point presents you with the opportunity to walk your way. Will you move toward your values and act like the person you wish to be, or will you move away from your values and act against them? The more you choose moves that are towards your values, the more vital, effective, and meaningful your life is likely to become. Unfortunately, when we are hooked to difficult thoughts, feelings, and situations, we often start making moves away from our values. If you value relationships and hope to get married, you can put that value in motion by internet dating, taking a cooking or rock climbing class, or joining a book club where you might meet someone who shares your interests. Insisting that you are too shy or nervous to take such actions is allowing yourself to make a move away and is directly opposite from what you say you value. If you hope to be healthier, you can start by changing what you eat, or by going to the gym, or even just by taking the stairs instead of the elevator. But it can't be just an intellectual commitment. You have to actually walk the talk, or should we say, walk your way. After all, when you ride a bicycle, you can stay balanced and upright only when you are in motion. It's the same with values. Goal conflicts. How many times have you found yourself torn between two options, both of which you feel strongly about? Work versus family, caring for yourself versus caring for others, spiritual leanings versus worldly ones. Or to put it differently, what if moving toward each of your values leads you in opposite directions? The key is to think about these choices not as better or worse, but as equal and different. Then it's up to you to find the reason for making the choice, not because one thing is better than the other, but simply because a decision has to be made. To come to a decent decision, we would better know ourselves pretty well. Choices, the philosopher Ruth Chang said, are chances for us to celebrate what is special about the human condition. That we have the power to create reasons for ourselves to become the distinctive people we are. Often, when we view as a value conflicts is really an issue of goal conflict. And importantly, values are not goals or of time management or of the difficulty in committing to a plan or a course of action. Or it may be that as mere mortals, we simply cannot be in two places at once. One of the biggest issues many people face on this front is creating a work life balance. For many of us, myself included, there's a constant tug between working and spending time with our kids and partners. But what if the choice is not really between work and home? What if the choice is about being fully committed to both rather than conflicted and torn? If you say, I value being a loving parent, I will bring that love to my interactions with my kid, and I value being a productive worker. I will bring that productivity to my desk every day. That is very different from saying I value being a loving parent, so I will leave the office at 5 every day regardless. With the former approach, you are no longer experiencing a conflict, but an expansion of what is possible in your life. Since values relate to quality rather than quantity of action, the amount of time you spend enacting your values doesn't necessarily reflect how much they matter to you. or limit the degree of engagement you bring to the precious moments you have with your loved ones or to the limited time you have at work. If you need to put in 12-hour day at the office to complete a project, something as simple as sending a quick email or text to your spouse can keep you connected to your value of being a loving partner. In psychology departments, it's called social snacking. You may have to travel on business, but you can usually call your kids every night at bedtime while you are away and really focus on them while you talk. Holding these values may mean working a bit harder and more efficiently at the office so you can get out the door at something like a reasonable hour. And you may have to give up running the March Madness betting pool or pitching of the company softball team. But when you frame these activities in terms of how much you value your family life, such trade offs become easier. Sometimes, of course, the decisions get more complicated. If your job absolutely requires you to travel on your son's birthday, chances are you are not going to stay home no matter how much you value your relationship with your child. You also value being able to pay the bills and provide for your child. But since you value being a loving parent, you can find another way to show your love, like organizing a celebration before you leave town, having something special delivered to him on the big day, or video calling into the party. We all spend time in different value domains depending on our circumstances, and being in one doesn't mean you value the others any less. Making hard choices can actually be liberating because it helps you define who you truly are and demonstrates the power we all have to shape our lives. If you can willingly accept the pain associated with giving up the road not taken, you can embrace the decision you did make and move forward with clarity. Values, in fact, are not limiting or restrictive. Instead, they give us latitude we might not otherwise allow ourselves by providing a continuous web of support. Knowing our values also makes us flexible and open to new experiences. We can use our values to make more deliberate, satisfying towards move and fewer reflexive, unproductive away moves. Living your values, walking your why, however, will not bring you a life free of difficulty. We all face dilemmas no matter how solid our beliefs and regardless of our specific decisions. Moving toward your values isn't always fun or easy, at least in the moment. If you are socially anxious, for example, a friend invites you to a party, the easiest response might seem to be to send your regrets. But if you truly value friendship and let these values guide you, you will make a toward move instead and say yes. When you arrive at the party, you will experience another bout of discomfort, more than if you had stayed at home. But this initial discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. As Elizabeth Gilbert discovered, even after she had begun to focus just on her writing, the process still remained a tough slog. Sergeant Darby and Irina Sendler learned that being true to their beliefs meant following paths that would make their lives more challenging, not less. I recall a profound interaction I had with Jane Goodall, the famous primatologist. She told me that at a certain point in her illustrious career, which she had devoted to conservation and animal welfare, she went through a period in which she cried frequently. She later discussed this with a friend who asked her why she thought she had been so sad. And I said something which really startled me. It had never come into my mind before, Goodall told me. I said, I think I was crying because I knew I was giving up the right to feel selfish. That's what I said. Isn't that strange? A colleague of mine described the dilemma this way. Your mind says, hey, I thought if I did this values things, I wouldn't feel so bad or so conflicted after making the choice. But the simple fact is, you still have to choose. There is loss inherent in choice. You give up the path not taken, and with any loss comes a certain amount of pain, sorrow, and even regret. You can know why you are doing something. Remember the question: what did I do that was actually worth my time? And still feel anxious or sad about it. The difference is that you will have a real investment in it that will help you navigate with agility through those difficult emotions. Even if your choice turns out to be wrong, you can at least take comfort in knowing you made the decision for the right reasons. You can show up to yourself with courage, curiosity, and self compassion. I once heard a story about a woman who was told that she was dying. She asked her doctor, "Is there hope?" The doctor replied, "Hope for what?" What he was suggesting is that even when we are dying, and we are all right now in the process of dying, we can make choices based on our values about how to live out the rest of our days. I was reminded of this story when a friend and colleague, Linda, was diagnosed with the fatal neurodegenerative disease, amato- um, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS. Linda loved her children, she loved her friends, and she loved to dance. She suffered tremendously as her symptoms progressed, but she continued, despite her pain, to send social media updates that were filled with love and light. When Linda reached her choice point, she made a toward move and opted to remain connected. Just before she went into hospice, and not long before she died, she wrote, I plan on taking this quiet time in that sacred place to think about my life and death. I feel lucky. Many people are snatched from this life without a chance to measure their mission. In the meantime, dance if you can. By knowing who you are and what you stand for, you come to life's choices with the most powerful tool of all, your full self. Dance if you can. So we have closed the chapter 6 and we move on to chapter 7, which talks about moving on, the tiny tweaks principle. Anyone would like to read from here?
Yeah, I can. If anyone else wants to read, they can also I don't see any names. Anyone wants to read? Okay, I'll go. Yeah. Moving on, right? The chapter name.
Yeah, moving on.
Tiny Tweaks Principle. Cynthia and David were fighting about money. She had been scrimping and saving for months with no small amount of sacrifice to create an emergency nest egg for, well, you just never know. Now her husband wanted to use that money to take the family on a rafting trip through the Grand Canyon. It wasn't a bad idea. They could certainly use a vacation, but Cynthia wanted them to be practical for once. David, on the other hand, took a different approach. The kids are going to be grown before we know it, he told Cynthia. We're going to be creaky and old. We have been talking about this trip for years. If not now, when? The discussion went back and forth, the tension rising with each round as more old business. You're just like your father. Well, you're just like your mother. Got thrown into the vortex. Then Cynthia glanced down. What happened to your socks? She asked. David looked down a little off guard and examined his blackened feet as if for the first time. I had to chase a raccoon out of the garden last night, he said after a moment. I didn't have time to put on my shoes. They looked at each other and then they both cracked up, the tension between them clearing like the air after a heavy rain. Families bicker about money all the time in households and around the world. The only thing unusual about the argument between Cynthia and David was that psychologists were filming it. Researchers had wanted to observe couples in their natural habitat. Since moving into these couples' homes would have been a little awkward, the researchers did the next best thing and created a studio apartment at their lab. The just okay, I somehow happened to just miss out when it's a new page. The makeshift dwelling was located in a park-line setting at the University of Washington in Seattle and consisted of a single room with a kitchenette, some furniture, a TV, and a music system. Couples agreed to spend 24 hours on view, one couple at a time, usually beginning on Sunday morning. Each was asked to bring groceries and whatever else they needed for the usual indoor weekend activities, movies, books, even work. The only one instruction was to spend the day as they would at home. During 12 of their 24 hours, usually 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., they were filmed. One of the things the research team was most struck by was the way individuals made and responded to bids of for emotional connection or efforts to reach out, like Cynthia's question about David's grimy socks. The researchers organized these bids into a hierarchy based on how much emotional involvement each demanded. Moving from lowest to highest, this was this is what the bids looked like. A simple bid for a partner's attention. There's a pretty boat. A bid for the partner's interest. Didn't your dad sail a boat like that? A bid for enthusiastic engagement. Hey, what a boat like that. Hey, with a boat like that, we could sail around the world. A bid for extended conversation. Have you called your brother lately? Did he ever get his boat fixed? A bid for play. Rolling up a newspaper and bopping a partner lightly on the head saying, "There, I've been meaning to do that all day." A bid for humor. A rabbi, a priest, and a psychiatrist go out sailing. A bid for affection. I need a hug or something similar, but often non-verbal. A bid for emotional support. I still can't understand why I didn't get that promotion. A bid for self disclosure. What was it like when you sailed with your grandfather growing up? The researchers noticed that after each of these gambits, the partner receiving the bid would respond in one of three ways: by turning toward his or her partner with enthusiasm that varied from a grunt of acknowledgement to wholehearted participation, by turning away. By turning away, uh, where is it went? Usually by simply ignoring, by turning away, usually by simply ignoring the comment or question, or by turning against. Please, I'm trying to read. Okay. How the couples reacted to these emotional offerings revealed volumes about each couple's future. Although they may have seemed inconsequential on the surface, these tiny behaviors were the best predictors of how well each couple would fare in the long term. In one follow up 6 years later, the couples in which either partner had responded with intimacy to only 3 out of 10 bids were already divorced, while those who had responded with intimacy to 9 out of 10 bids were still married. In marriage, these micro moments of intimacy or neglect create a culture in which the relationship either thrives or withers. The tiny behaviors feed back on themselves and compound with time as every interaction builds on the previous interaction, no matter how seemingly trivial. Each person's moments of pettiness and anger or generosity and lovingness create a feedback loop that makes the overall relationship either more toxic, can you scroll up, or happier. I think I'm not seeing the words actually. I'm just guessing. Either more toxic or happier going forward. In the early 50s, a singer named Kitty Callan had a huge hit with a top song called Little Things Mean a Lot, and she was right. Tweaking the little things can have a powerful impact when doing so allows us to align our behavior more closely with what really matters to us. Nature favors evolution, not revolution. Wow, I'll read this again. Nature favors evolution, not revolution. Studies from many different fields have demonstrated that small shifts over time can dramatically enhance our ability to thrive. The most effective way to transform your life, therefore, is not by quitting your job and moving to an ashram, but to paraphrase Teddy Roosevelt, by doing what you can with what you have where you are. Each little tweak may not look like much on its own, but think of them as frames in a movie. If you alter each frame one at a time and put them all together, you'll end up with a totally different film and one that tells a totally different story. Or, to continue the boat metaphor used earlier, if you have ever sailed, you know that a shift of a degree or two can dramatically change where you wind up across the bay. Imagine how much greater the effect would be if you were sailing across the ocean. When our approach to problems is too grand, I need a new career, we invite frustration. But when we aim for tiny tweaks, I'm going to have one decision a week with someone outside my field, one discussion a week with someone outside my field. The cost of failure is pretty small. When we know we have little to lose, our stress levels drop and our confidence increases. We get the feeling I can handle this, which helps us become even more committed and creative. Equally importantly, we tap into the fundamental human need to make progress toward meaningful goals. In looking for the right places to make these tiny changes, there are keyboard areas of opportunity. You can tweak your beliefs or what psychologists call your mindset. You can tweak your motivations and you can tweak your habits. When we learn how to make small changes in each of these areas, we set ourselves up to make profound, lasting change over the course of our lives. Okay. Sunita, you want to read from here?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Just a minute. Huh?
You want to take some time? I can go on then in that case. Not a problem. You want to read for some? Or she's left, I guess. I think there's some network issue or something. Okay, I'll continue. Sorry for that. A new outlook, tweaking our mindset. Alia Crum, a professor of psychology, conducted a study in which she made a tiny tweak to the mindsets of 84 female hotel cleaners. The hardworking women Crum recruited spent long hours at their jobs, and at the end of their shifts, they went home to look after their families. They didn't have time to exercise at the gym, and they likely ate a standard American diet overloaded with caffeine and sugar. Most were overweight or markedly obese. Crumb's idea was elegantly simple. What if she simply asked the cleaners to think differently about their work? What if instead of feeling guilty about not getting enough regular exercise, the cleaners reorganized that activities they spent a large part of their day during were doing were in fact exercise? Unless you have lived a truly charmed life, you probably know how tiring it is to clean a house from top to bottom, which is why few of us actually do it. Imagine then how exhausting it must be to spend your day bending, pushing, lifting, dusting, and vacuuming about 15 hotel rooms and bathrooms several days a week. The hotel cleaners didn't see their work as formal exercise because they weren't sweating it out at the gym or swimming laps, but in reality, their daily exertion far exceeded the US Surgeon General's exercise recommendations for a healthy life. Crum divided the cleaners into two groups. While both groups received description of the benefits of exercise, only those in one group were informed that they met the Surgeon General's daily exercise requirements. In terms of intervention, that was it. Sunita, you want to take over now? Okay, I'll read this part. 4 weeks later, with no other changes in the woman's life, those in the aware group had lowered their blood pressure compared to those in the unaware group. They had also shaved off pounds and improved their body fat and waist to hip ratio. The tiny tweak in mindset had made a huge difference. Okay, wow. Okay, yeah, Sunita, you want to take over or you need some more time or something?
No, no, I think.
Go on, yeah.
So when I first started to train as a clinical psychologist, I worked as a student therapist, seeing patients at the University Clinic in Melbourne, Australia. About once a week, I discuss my toughest cases with a senior colleague and supervisor. In the beginning, my patients' problems seemed so complex, and the resources I had to solve them so woefully inadequate that I felt completely overwhelmed. Some of the people had been coming to the clinic week in and week out for years with no apparent improvement. To be honest, after a few weeks, I thought that everything I was being asked I lost it. Just a minute. Where am I read? Right. Let me just read it again. When I first started to train as a clinical psychologist, that is where I am, right? Hello?
Yes, yes,
No,
yes.
you are in the second paragraph.
Okay. In the beginning, okay.
Second
Okay.
paragraph. In the beginning, you have to skip to the fourth line.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Some of the people had been coming to the clinic week in and week out for years with no apparent improvement. To be honest, after a few weeks, I thought that everything I was being asked to do was pointless and that I stood no chance of helping anyone. Then I met Carlos, after which I was convinced I stood no chance. At 37, Carlos had been out of work for 9 years and divorced for 8. At our first interview, I could smell alcohol on his. I've been depressed for as long as I can remember, Carlos wrote. He believed something inside himself was broken, and he self medicated with alcohol, which made all his problems worse. I don't think I can help this guy. I told Mike that he's had depression all his life. He doesn't have any support. He's unlikely to consistently come to therapy. And even if he does come, he still won't stop drinking. I just can't see that he'll change. Mike smiled and told me I was approaching Carlos's problem with a fixed mindset. Many people have heard of the concept of fixed versus growth mindsets, thanks to the work of Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck and her book, The Aptly Titled Mindset. People with a fixed mindset follow an entity theory of self and believe important qualities such as intelligence and personality are fixed traits that cannot be changed. People with a growth mindset believe that these basic qualities are malleable and can be improved through learning and effort. Whether you have a fixed or a growth mindset can differ depending on the quality in question. You might be fixed with regard to your math skills. I'm just no good with numbers. But growth when it comes to your social skills. I just need to get to know my new coworkers better. Studies show that these beliefs about change can have a profound effect on behavior. Children who believe their intelligence is fixed underperform in courses that they find difficult relative to those who believe they can improve their effective intelligence by working hard. After all, those who are open to change and believe they can do better and that their efforts matter have a sense of agency over their performance and rise to the challenge. So setbacks or failures don't keep them down, and they persevere even when they are frustrated. We also know that one's mindset can be developed and shifted. The parent who praises a child's accomplishments by saying, "You studied hard," promotes a growth mindset. The parent who says, "Look at your a son, you're a genius," promotes a fixed mindset. If a child comes to believe that success depends on innate intelligence and that intelligence is a fixed commodity, then he's more likely to think there's nothing he can do when the going inevitably gets tougher and he finds himself struggling in Spanish or pre-calculus. Dweck, however, notes that it is important not to confuse having a growth mindset with simply working hard. If a child spends hours and hours studying, but her grade stays the same or her understanding of the subject doesn't improve, it's time to consider other strategies. Nor should parents stop at simply praising a child's effort. If your daughter fails her history test, good try. Might make her feel better, but won't help her improve. Though Dweck says, let's talk about what you tried and what you can try next, just might. In a recent study, researchers wondered whether they could improve the success rates of 200 community college students who hadn't yet mastered basic high school math. Not surprisingly, community college students whose math skills aren't up to the par face a lot of obstacles trying to catch up, especially if they hope to transfer to a 4-year college. But being placed in a remedial math class can make them feel as if they're hopeless at the subject. In the study, researchers sent half the students an article explaining that people's brains, even adults' brains, can grow and improve with practice, and then asked the subjects to summarize what they've read. Compared with the control group that was sent a different article, the students who had received the message that their brains are malleable dropped out of their math classes half as often and got better grades, all because of this tiny change in their mindsets. When it came to my client Carlo, my mindset was fixed. I didn't believe that I had it in me to help him and that he would make it through therapy. My, my supervisor saw it differently. He helped me tweak my mindset towards viewing the situation as an opportunity rather than a fool's errand. Most important, he helped me focus on small steps in the process, like what skills I needed for different phases of treatment and how to develop a true relationship with Carlos, rather than on the outcome, my being a success at helping to cure Carlos. This freed up my thinking and allowed me to direct my knowledge and energy in positive ways. Change is often seen as a one time event that happens after, say, setting a New Year's resolution. But change is a process, not an event. A focus on this process gives individuals the sense that they can make mistakes, learn from them, and still improve their performance over the long. While theories of mindset are most often associated with intelligence and academic success, They have a reach far beyond these limits. They are at the heart of how we position ourselves in the world at large. They can even mean the difference between life and death. How would you respond to the following? True or false? Old people are helpless. As I get older, things in my life will get worse. I have less spare this year than I did last
Sunita,
year.
we'll
Becca,
stop here for the day.
okay.
Thank you. So, this chapter goes on for a bit, so we can't complete it. And looking at the time, I think it's time that we now look back at the chapters that we have read and try to relate any point that was striking, anything which resonated, anything which cleared the mind of some doubts or situation that you were facing. Anyone? Please open up and we can discuss them. No one?
I like the difference between like the differentiation that they have given between the parent and child. Like when you say this, you develop this mindset. When you say this, you develop this mindset. That one, because yesterday only I attended one of this session by Mano sir where Gurpreet was a parenting coach and she had taken it on parenting. So I was just dwelling upon that, and then this also came as an additional insight for me. So yeah, and overall, I loved the emotional, like overall, also the chapter and everything that we read today was very beautiful. I would want to actually go back and read it once again to have a deeper understanding of it. So yeah, anyone else wants to add, please?
Yeah, Mansi, you're right. For me, yes, I again need this chapters again. The key here is last paragraph where author mentioned that change is a process. It is the systematic process which you need to follow. It is a continuous process. It is not one-time event, which is again the theme of the whole book, Atomic Habit, where I learned this thing. Whatever you want to change in your life, it should start with the small actions. So that is really striking me. Again, in one of the paragraph, author gives a nice line saying that values are not goals. So I consider the yes, as author mentioned, that there are something at higher level. Okay, but you need to design your life. You need to live your life by those values. Yes, definitely there is a plus minus keep on happening on those particular values, but yes, they those values has that power to uplift you in the difficult situations, and those values needs to practice on everyday basis, so that when actual situation comes in your life, those actually values holds you in that situation. As I mentioned, it requires requires everyday practice to follow those values, whichever the values you this thing. And author gives very nice different examples around it. Okay, so while we were going through those paragraph, I just came across the event. This is just happened last week. My son is, again, I'm sharing my own experience, which is more relevant to what we are reading here, and that's the reason I love this book. Yeah, he's in university, third year. He just finished his exams, and he went to the party with his university friends, and nice bunch of kids actually. Those kids, and they went for some kind of a night party or something. Now, since we are in a UK culture, we are here for last 18 years. So for me, it is very difficult to digest this type of cultural differences, because drinking is very much in the core of this culture, which I understand why, because this is a cold country, whereas we are from we are from the east. So drinking is not at all in my life or my parents' life or this thing, and I have seen in my life, the ruined family because of the drinking habits, and so many this thing from the childhood. So drinking is absolutely no. But yeah, so when he came back from the party, definitely, as a parent, my role. Uh, not to discuss anything about drinking and all that. I was thinking like, how to communicate that to him. I'm really open here. So whenever I had this kind of discussion with him related to money, related to habits like drinking, smoking, all those things, because I found very in my own life very difficult to be in a society in which these things are happening all around you. It is very challenging, and that is what author also mentioned. But at that time, your values support you. What value you are adhering to yourself? What is values you are committed to your life? I met lots sorts of friends in my life, the drinking and all that, the way they convince you to drink, the way they convince you to do some bad things and all that, it is really they are very creative in that, to make you feel that oh, if you are not doing that you are not a man, or you are not living your life full 100%, all those stuff. But at that time, in surrounded by the 10 or 15 friends, your values, within your values, which are inside you, you are holding for so many years, those values helps you. So whatever money management, this type of habits and everything, my ask, that is what I explained to my son, uh, all related to the values, that is going to support. At the end, it is he's adult now, so everyone has their own life too. I'm not going to be with him in every step of life, but what I explain him is the values, related to money management, related to these habits. It always values supports you from within. So I spoke a lot with him. I discussed a lot with him, but it is all related to the values, because other external factors and social, all these things which are happening around you, they are always there to pull you away, from your values. And values only give you the strength to stick to it. Yeah, so that is something, just running in my mind when we are going through, because as I said before, this author is a real nicely she put everything together because of her experience, I think. But it's good that we are created this platform to discuss, and definitely I like to know your views. These are the practical problems which we are facing nowadays in our society. Thank you.
Thanks, Milind, to be so open and sharing this relevant. It's kind of a wake up call, or you would say a practical difficulty which each one of us, being parents, are facing, right? Yeah. So anyone else wants to talk about anything we read so far?
So for me, I think the one line, a couple of lines, but the thing that nature favors evolution rather than revolution is something that caught my attention. And we have seen cases where, if you are not evolving or changing to the situation, it does not bode well for your growth, whether it is your personal growth as or the growth of organizations and systems. So that is a lesson that or learning that has been left in again. The other thing is that change is a process and not a immediate kind of a thing, and that has to be kept in mind, which I I've seen it happen for myself also, right? So, per se, from the resolutions that we made on the patience level and the committedness that I've shown towards my own goals and perseverance has, kept me changing my outlook to the fact that I cannot get the immediate results. I need to be patient and follow the process and be continuous in my efforts, so that that is a point that was again stressed for me, for my personal understanding and learning.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Sunita. Yes, the choices have to be made immediately, but the results and whatever benefits It might be long term also. Yes, right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing that, based on the value system and everything that we just read and discussed today, what I believe is that, if we can, one should aim for his purpose of life in the very beginning itself. And, if we are reviewing our progress and our focus on what are we doing on a day-to-day basis, like it might be our habits or anything whatever we do, like are we making progress or not, are we going in the direction or not, what is stopping us doing that. So I think daily contemplating, daily reviewing our journaling, what we call, I find that journaling is a great way to keep a control of your action and habits, right? So it and when we do that on a daily basis, it is such a strong tool. It keeps a very good control on your habits, your emotions. And when you start when a person is growing in life, like a young student or a young person, if you're doing your journaling on a day-to-day basis about your value system, like are you doing anything which is helping you, or stopping you, or derailing you from your purpose of life. I think doing that activity on a daily basis, I think before the end of the day, is a very powerful tool to, make you fully aware of, what is helping you or what is harming you. And because what happens is, if we are not doing that, we are getting swayed by the flow of life. वो कहते हैं ना कि ठीक है यार, आज ऑफिस पार्टी है, लेट्स गो आउट, ठीक है ना, ठीक है, you go out once. But if you are like properly doing a good check on your daily activities at the end of the day, it will help you keep in good control. ठीक है, you are going for a dinner with a customer or anything which you cannot avoid. But if you are doing a review of your day-to-day progress on a daily basis, it will keep you in good control. Okay, are you sometimes you have to keep a good balance of things, right? Like a good balance of something, you may not need to avoid, but you are still avoiding. But it will keep you in good balance, right? Okay, you are not overstepping your limits, you are not overdoing something. So I think to remain in good balance of life, life is all about balance, right? So my take is that, doing and living with the practicality of life, and aligning with that your core value system, purpose of life, and just reviewing your progress on a day-to-day basis by journaling will keep you in good control on your day-to-day progress, your activities, so that you are not derailing yourself from the purpose of life, maybe small things or big things. So I think doing daily contemplation and daily journaling is a very powerful tool for everybody, I believe. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Manishi, for sharing, why we need to know our values, reflect, keep tab on the progress that we are making towards our purpose goals. And this periodic reflection will make us understand where we stand or where we need to work more, right? So, yeah, this chapter was again very interesting. The way the author had put many points together, the flow especially was very good. What I really liked is, she gave a very clear picture. It's not all rosy, and reality hits hard. The examples that she had stated were, very, very critical situations where it was like do or die situations also. So one can see the contrast of things where you are when you are at leisure, as well as when there are such extreme situations. In both such situations, we can use values as our anchoring thing, so that we don't just go with the flow of life towards wherever it takes us, but we try to direct it as well. Yeah, the picture is not rosy because, as she's rightly added, the fear part of it, that you will have fear, you will have to show courage. You will make a choice at the choice point. So there has to be a choice that has to be made. And once a choice is made, the other choices can no longer be made, maybe. or you make a choice. So you strike off the others and you tick one. So these kind of hard-hitting points which she has made is bringing out the picture closer to reality or closer to the right understanding one has to get. The example of the family, who was filmed. So one scenario can be dealt in so many various ways was shown, and it also brings out that we also can maybe try a bit of creativity in our lives to not handle the same situation in the same manner every day. Maybe bring a slight change. Um, um, then the discussion moved to tiny tweaks. So tiny tweaks is just to not get overwhelmed by the entire process and be just conscious on the next step that is being taken. Again, it's the mindset of fixed versus growth was discussed very in detail. That what becomes a fixed mindset versus what is growth. So it is a nice way of building the concept from values and up to the implementation. So just knowing the value or just intellectualizing the value and dreaming about it will not make any good, but you'll have to bring in whatever small way of changing the scenarios, because we can't make drastic changes as well sometimes. Yes, when a decision has to be made, we can change things to a larger extent. But when things are in progress, you can also try some small changes to maneuver things towards what you want it to be led. So if you permit, there are certain other points which I wanted to discuss today. And if people are willing to stay for a 5-10 minutes, I will just share them quickly.
Please go ahead.
Manisha,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
one question. Like, what is the unique insight? Because I might have missed. Sorry about that. I might have
No,
missed your.
I actually summarized the insights now, Manishji. Whatever I discussed was the key insights which I had from this book.
Like, my question is, like, is there any unique insight from today's reading which we didn't know before? Like, just curious.
I think it was just putting the same thing that we knew in a more reality and more better manner, I would say. So that is as such. It is not. It was. I don't think much of what was said was not known, but it was not put in as much proper words in what the author has put today.
Okay. Yeah.
So my, just if I may interrupt, my understanding was that this was something, this new that I've heard or unique that I've heard is even when you've made the choice, you are still uh, mm, confronted by the fear or that loss and the sadness of taking the right, making the right choice and losing on to the other option of, say, uh, mm, what is that one? Immediate uh, results or gratification that you would get if you had not taken the right path. So that was what I also gauged from the read.
Yeah. Anyone else wants to say anything?
No, Manisha, you take us through whatever you want to share.
Okay. Okay. So I've just prepared this short document, just to look back and see where the emotional effect is most in our days. It is draining our energies in bits and pieces, and sometimes it seems to be a huge drain at the end of the day, or it may just be a lower energy levels over few sprinkled events over the day. So how do we avoid that? And something which helps me also to focus on what is important now, what is to be done now, right? So what needs to be done now? So bringing me back to this point, I wanted to share this concept. So what is in my control versus what is not? If we try focusing on this point, maybe we will have lesser overthinking. We might make make our life a bit more easier. And but yes, of course, we will have to make it a kind of a practice. It might not come, so we will have to maybe genuinely direct ourselves initially, and then gradually we'll move on, definitely. So for this, most important thing should be the internal versus external locus of control. So we have to believe that we have the control, the internal, whatever is within our reach, we have to take the responsibility. So internal focus control has to be there. Then I just want to share what Mahatriya's rule is. So he says any philosophy you go for, any books, ample number of books you read, it sums down to these 3 points only. Accept for success in life. Accept the unchangeable, change the changeable, and remove yourself from the unacceptable. So these 3 lines. So basically 11 words is what he always summarizes, is his rule of saying that how you can be peaceful and successful in your life. And how I am connecting this with emotional agility is, again, acceptance and stepping out. So we have to accept and step out of what we cannot change. Change the changeable. We say that we'll have to look at values, and based on the values, we'll drive our action. Remove yourself from the unacceptable is laying down your boundaries. Again, that will reflect your values and your authenticity. So basically, you will have to showcase your genuine face rather than people pleasing. The key question that we'll have to ask when we accept the unchangeable is, what can I accept without struggle? So this puts the end to that struggle. Change the changeable. What can I do right now? Because that is within my control. Remove yourself from the unacceptable. Where do I need to protect myself? So this is very important, because at times we continue to keep ourselves not only in loop of an environment or people, but also loop of certain habits and behaviors which we tend to stick to. So unacceptable may be with reference to any habit or any kind of a behavior that we tend to do almost mindlessly. Then this pause rule, which is there in the book, pause and choose your response. How can I respond, not react? So here more we are focusing on response rather than reacting, which is the essence of this book. The control compass. So as Susan David says, you can't control what you feel, but you can control how you respond. So the circle of control, I think many images will be shared for this, but I could not get any apt image. So I just listed down whatever the points were. So circle of control, what I fully control: my words, my actions, my attention, my choices, my effort, my values, my responses to emotions. So these are so whatever is in my control, what am I responsible for? Let me act here. This is your power zone. So let me look at my values, my effort, choices, give the attention, see where I'm focusing, giving time or energy to, how are my actions, and what are my words that are coming out. Circle of influence. So this is very important, where we seem to look from, if there are 2 perspectives here. Now, whether you are looking isolated from a my perspective or the together perspective. So this is a place where we are involved, but holistically there are other people also involved there. So what we have to broadly see here is, what is our role there, what are we expected to do, as well as how we can better influence the entire thing, which may not be totally in our control, but yes, we can influence. So whatever good part we can do in that, we can try and doing this. So it is our relationships, that is family, work, or any other social relationships, team energy, mostly working, my child's learning, yes, for parenting, for parents, people's perception, how they perceive me, But yes, I can also see how they are taking my, the way they are perceiving me, and maybe change my actions to project the right image. My reputation, environment setup. So engage wisely with these things and influence without attachment to any particular thing rather than looking outside for a appreciation. Let's look inward and see what we stand for and project that. Circle of concern. What is not in my control, let's not even drain our energy there. Let's just accept and go ahead. Where we have a slight point of influence, like our friends or some, where it shows us, gives us an opportunity to control the situation or make an influence, we should put our right foot forward where we can try and deal with the situation from our perspective, but also be acceptable to the fact that we are not in control there entirely. Other people's thoughts, past mistakes, future outcomes, external approval, the news, circumstances you can't change. So let's accept and not let our precious energy drain here. So what are the reflection questions? What do I need to accept today without resistance? What is mine to change even in a small way? What am I tolerating that I need to lovingly walk away from? This can be, as I said, habits or even certain choices that we tend to make repeatedly, right? Now this energy management will bring us focus to where it matters. By accepting what's unchangeable, we conserve energy. By changing what's possible, we invest our energies there and remove yourself from toxicity, that is, protect our energy so that we use it where it is required. Now, the question is, we can ask whenever we expend energy or wherever we are giving attention, where am I spending my energy today? Is it in the right place? So again, I got this nice 10 things I can control thing. So, which we can focus. How I talk to myself, remembering the good things, feeling my feelings. This is very close to what book we are reading. Moving my body, spending time in nature, eating nutritious food, getting enough sleep, trying new things, asking for help, doing my best, and again, how I talk to myself. Yeah. So, as the book says, talk to yourself with self compassion, think about yourself, and look inward to what actually is good and continue to focus on what you value. So, this is what I wanted to discuss today and share with you. Any thoughts? How this you have implemented in your life? How this has helped you in coming out of situations or bringing to the now and present? Any thoughts?
I love those three things that you shared by Matre and everything else also obviously. But those first two, like it's more about accept. We have heard of this, like accept the something that you can't change and take charge of something that you can change. But the third one especially that you shared was uh, move out, right? Like of the situation that whatever,
Remove
like
yourself from the unacceptable.
remove yourself from the unacceptable. I love that. That is so much empowering because otherwise sometimes in the term of accepting, uh, I have at least experienced it, and I feel we get stuck in this where we want to accept something that is non-acceptable also, and then we struggle in that area where we are always struggling with our own values or whatever is going around us, and we feel ki, is this right, am I doing this, should I be a little more on this side or that side. But I think the third one I feel is very empowering because that feels that actually gives us a liberty to even uh, move out or walk on things, like just like the clip that you showed right in Thappad. I saw that movie later. So yeah, I think that falls into that category, and I think that is very very profound. So yeah, and the way you analyzed it, it's like Maniselvi, we are literally looking forward to what you are going to share after the session. because it's an anticipation that's built up now, because you have such profound shares and insights to share with us. Such a good value addition you have. So yeah, thank you for all that.
Thank you, Manaselvi, for bringing this particular detailed notes which you bring after every session. This is in our programming language. We say this as a class. Class is, like the attributes, the way you come up with these notes. These are, we call it a class. It is a blueprint, and based on that, we create in our programming, we create the object, like building a car. And that is how whole programming works. So what I mean to say is, what you bring here on these particular notes or the last 20 minutes, definitely we read all the books, we can read the books again and again, but these notes is a added value for me, because this applies to every situation. That is, in programming we call creating the objects, and in objects actually does everything, but that is depend on the class. So you came up with the blueprint which is actually applicable to all the situation, every point in your life. So thank you very much for that one. Normally, for example, how I apply this thing in my life is, I remember a word, cash. Very easy to remember, right? Cash. So in cash, H is the happiness. Everyone is here for happiness. We want happiness in our life. We want to be happy. 365 day 24. But there are three key letters at the beginning: C, A, and S. Okay, and C is for control. So I check that in every situation, like my favorite this thing where I spend 8 hours in office. Am I looking for the control, to have a control in a situation? So when I check that, it gives the immediate answer from within whether I want to really control the thing, or is there any something which is not in my control. So that really helps me to understand. Okay. Second one is acceptance and approval. Are you really waiting someone to appreciate you in a meeting, or are you waiting for some kind of approval in a meeting? So I asked that question to myself. So in all life situation, definitely it helps me to analyze my internal world. CAS is safety and security, since again we are speeches. So there is the background in our head. This safety and security questions are always there. If you go out somewhere in a new area and all that, like I went to Birmingham, which is very first time, when there are lots of different altogether different areas. So when you enter into that unknown area, these questions in your mind, is this particular area is safe? So yes, so that also help. So if you are spending all your energy on this one, try to the control situation which is not in your control. You get trying to get appreciation where no one has a nowadays time to appreciate this thing. Everyone is busy in their life, and you are expecting happiness, appreciation from that, not going to help. If safety security, you are living in a very safe and secured world, part of the world, in a country in the world. So why you are after that? So this helps me to get the happiness which is in each and every moment. But today you bring the next level to it. Now I can see the cash, which is me, with your document, saying that okay, so it basically you bring that particular depth into that understanding, saying that okay, now refer to this particular blueprint to get more and more out of it. So thank you very much for your this thing. And very last point, yes, you remember you showed this four monkeys, and at that time I didn't get chance to speak, but now I'll say. And you asked the question that what the one thing which you will implement in your life. At that time also I didn't get chance to speak because of my office meeting, but now I'll answer. If you check the four monkeys, the real key thing, definitely we learn a lot from that four monkeys, but the real key thing which we miss there is those monkeys are all four monkeys are sitting, and monkeys are not meant for that. Monkeys meant to be on a tree, in a garden, in a jungle, in that way. So that is what exactly things I think I'm missing, which I want to connect again, is with the nature and where I get all my answers. So yeah, going into the nature, all the thing which I want to implement. Nature has all the answers. In one of the YouTube video I seen, someone commented there. One person says that you need to be in nature, you need to watch sky, you need to go and hug the trees. And the comment there, one person said, oh, for that I need to be a gardener, or I need to be work in a forest department. So this is how limited people have the thinking about being with nature. absolutely no need to work in a forest or as a gardener and all that. Nature is next to you. Just go there. So that is what my implementation, which I like to do. Go into the nature, connect with the nature, because we are not monkeys sitting with our iPhone. There is a whole nature next to you, next 2 minutes outside your house, within your house. But yeah, start doing that connections, and the answers are there. Answers are there. Awesome. Thank you, Manaselvi, and thank you everyone for listening. But yeah, profound session. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else has anything to say?
Yeah, I want to add one thing that, as part of the core value system, I feel that, taking action is the most important, one of the most important thing that we can add to our list of core value system. Because when we talk about like people don't have time for themselves, like instead of having time for others, people don't have time for themselves, including me, as I'm speaking now, right? But the point here is that, if we focus on our core value system, our real purpose of life, and we connect to spiritual well-being, then we should focus on taking actions very fast. Very fast means we should set a specific time that okay, I need to decide a certain thing by this point of time. It may not be perfect, but I need to take action, because what happens is that sometimes we try to avoid small issues, but we keep on delaying our actions, and they cost us more later actually. And the more we delay taking action, it keeps stress in our mind. It just like if you keep procrastinating, yeah, your fear factor grows, right? So you eat up your mental energy so much, and later we realize that, oh, it was nothing, I could have done it like so fast. Because if I see that in my own life, if I say that okay, I was reading in this thing in a very book that one day you will laugh at your fears what you have today, right? So the point here is that uh, the fear is not that fear that we have in our mind. And when we do that from our heart, okay, if I'm delaying my action, how it is hurting me. With every day I'm delaying, I have one day less to achieve my goals of life. I think, and one more important thing along the same line is that we should focus on writing a lot. Because what happens is that when all the important areas of life, if we start writing, because we see so many people write their own diaries about every day, okay, what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, and so many things like that. So that, when we keep that habit, writing has a very strong connection to our mind. you know it when we start writing, when we make writing our regular habit on the important areas of life, our health, our fitness, our professional career, relationship, family, and other important things. When we are writing, we are really putting a complete focus on that, and it is making a very good strong impact on our mind. And when we connect it to the mind, we start creating the ideas that were not seen otherwise. So I feel, taking action and writing is a very good habit that, that solves so many problems that we cannot otherwise. So I think
It is also covered in the book as far as journaling is concerned and taking action also. So just, knowing things and not taking action. So even the author has also covered these points. So thank you, Manish ji, for also adding these points. And yes, we can save a lot of time also, which we have to be mindful of. Okay, then thanks everyone. Yeah, we can
Thank you.
resume tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Manish. Yeah, thank you.